As of the recent chapter Jujutsu Kaisen, which is 248 as of the time of this video, I believe that we may have come to see the end of Kenjaku. However, Kenjaku is as unpredictable as it gets, so we can never really be sure. And as it stands, the community is actually divided on whether or not Kenjaku's really gone. But I did want to share my thoughts on this conclusion in the event that he is. I'll start off by saying that I did want Kenjaku to have a couple more fights, cause he's single-handedly capable of doing everything that a sorcerer possibly can, and Kenjaku, being who he is, should demonstrate his overarching dominance over the entire cast, such as Sukuna has multiple times. Not to say that defeating Yuki and Takaba, two of the strongest sorcerers to exist, is not an achievement, but it's Kenjaku still. When it comes to him, I would like to see more out of him than really any other character in the series. But if I were to say that I didn't expect Kenjaku to die by sacrificing himself in the end one way or another, that'd be a bold-faced lie. In this video, I'll be explaining how Kenjaku's character and the narrative of Jujutsu Kaisen was going to lead up to this point one way or another. This isn't to really say that this is the objectively correct way that Kenjaku should have made his exit. However, I think that there were many hints that this was a likely outcome for him. So I know that this is a video that focuses on Kenjaku, but I do want to go over the hints in chronological order so it's easier for us to piece together and streamline everything that we see. So I'll go over Geto and Yuki's conversation and hit an inventory arc, and this is to get a better understanding of Yuki Tsukumo and the person that she is. And we'll go into why that matters after this. When Geto expresses his and many others' perception of Yuki upon her telling him who she is, she's supposedly the no good special grade who doesn't take on any missions and just bums around overseas. The story very quickly sharing to us that, from the perspective of almost everybody in the series, she's a non-factor. But when she shares what she's been doing, we then understand that she's been attempting to change the world for the better by studying methods in order to eradicate curses permanently. This being a metaphor to how her character should be perceived by the audience, in my opinion. And this brings us to her final answer to this problem that's given during the climax of the Shibuya incident, this being to break away from cursed energy permanently. And as we finally come back to Kenjaku, we see that this answer is instantly shot down by him, as instead of breaking away from cursed energy, he'd prefer to optimize it. And if you take a good look at this page, you can probably pick up why I said understanding Yuki's character is important to understanding Kenjaku, and it's because they're mirrors of one another. Whereas Yuki's background goes from dark at the top to light at the bottom, Kenjaku's contrasts this with the opposite color scheme. And you also see Kenjaku break his smile for the first time ever in this series, making his disdain for Yuki and her philosophy very clear. As our conversation continues, Yuki expresses that her ideal is a peaceful world, a world where every single individual human is evolved and at the peak of their potentials due to the removal of cursed energy. A world without any curses to harm humans, whereas Kenjaku expresses that he needs to create chaos that even he cannot control. This chaos being the merger, one individual being that will surpass everything humans once were. Their ideas of evolving humanity are completely different from one another. Whereas Yuki wants to evolve humanity as a whole and allow everybody to prosper in a better world, Kenjaku wants to sacrifice everybody in order to evolve humanity in a biological sense, creating a being, no, a deity, that lies beyond it. And as I've mentioned before, their goals represent who they are. Yuki defines humanity by the collective, and Kenjaku defines it by whoever stands out on top. As Kenjaku enters the Tomb of the Star, he expresses many more things about his plan to Choso, such as when speaking about Yuki, he was surprised that she suspected that he'd sacrificed the population for the merger, and was even happy to know that she thinks a lot like him, Gege making it even more clear that there are parallels within this massive narrative. However, Kenjaku clearly despises Yuki because despite how similar they are, she's come to the exact opposite conclusion that he has. This, as with everybody else who's been in a similar predicament, would be forced to naturally question their own ideals and beliefs, even if for a brief second, which results in his natural and apparent hatred for Yuki Tsukumo and everything she stands for. But why doesn't Kenjaku ever waver? It's simple, really. Tengen, I am not like you. I have lived 1,000 years of conflicts and alliances, a cursed world. And as Kenjaku activates his domain, he reminds us that he's been proactive in his own goals for over 1,000 years, manipulating many events in the backgrounds of the series, slowly yet surely inching towards his goals. In contrast to Tengen, who idly sat around for that same period of time, doing nothing but relying on others to protect her and get rid of her own problems. To Kenjaku, obtaining Tengen and creating the merger was a must, even his purpose. 1,000 years of planning have culminated into him essentially taking over Japan and being closer than ever to achieving said purpose, with nobody to stop him. Of course, he never gave thought to Yuki's philosophy. His conviction has centuries of positive reinforcement behind it. But that doesn't stop him from expressing his disinterest and frustration in what he perceives to be no more than ignorance. To speak about the domain expansion itself that's contained within this scene, the hand sign behind it represents prayer, rather than the mudra of a deity. Kenjaku uses a Hanshagasho, representing no deity, but instead chooses to pray toward one. Also, the name of Kenjaku's domain is the womb profusion. In quickly simplifying the point here, the kanji for this can be referred to as a realm that guides many souls to salvation, with Kenjaku serving as the shadow game master of the Culling game and lines up with his character. As much agency as Kenjaku has over the story, remember that he does not do all of this for himself. As their battle concludes, Kenjaku cuts Yuki's body in half, and I could be overanalyzing here, but I think Yuta cutting off Kenjaku's head in a similar manner is indicative of their sources of power. Yuki manipulates mass with her physical strength, whereas Kenjaku's strength comes from both his battle intelligence and his brain. With both of those being severed, it could be a mirror of them being eliminated by their sources of power being severed. Anyways, Yuki sacrifices herself for the sake of the future, giving Choso both her book full of the research she's done towards creating a world without curses in the prison realm, and Kenjaku proceeds to insinuate that Tengen looks similar to Sukuna. As both she and Sukuna have reached transcension, Kenjaku knows that there's something even further beyond both her and Sukuna's state, and this is the being that he wants to create. He captures Tengen and states that she has atoned for her tedious existence, this most likely being due to allowing him to evolve humanity in his own terms. We later see Kenjaku fight Takaba, and during this battle, Takaba makes Kenjaku say this: "What an earnest and beautiful deep bow. I never achieved that until my 20s. With Kenjaku's manifestation of self, his domain expansion, being a representation of prayer and guidance, Kenjaku having a beautiful bow is another indicator of how much he seems to represent a devoted follower of religion, as whenever you bow in such a manner, it's a sign of humility to be shown to whomever the deity that it is you decide to pray toward. If what Kenjaku says is true here, it does confirm that Kenjaku in his first life did pray to a deity, as he states that he wouldn't have been able to pray with such a technique until his late 20s. When the battle concludes, Yuta is able to behead him before he realizes it, going out in a similar manner to Yuki. When comparing their deaths, they go out in the same exact way, leaving something behind for their comrades to carry on in order to complete their goals. In Yuki's case, her book gets passed on to Yuji by Choso, and in Kenjaku's case, the access to the merger is passed on to Sukuna, and with everything we know about both of these characters, it completely falls in line. If you remember, both Kenjaku and Yuki serve the future of their respective ideal worlds, and that's all they really seem to focus on. They both live for more than themselves, and now their ideals continue to clash through both Yuji and Sukuna, those who both carry the physical embodiments of their will. And with Sukuna calling Yuji boring throughout most of the series, and eventually coming to claim that he wants to crush Yuji's ideals because they frustrate him so much, I think at this point, the parallels couldn't be more obvious. And if Yuji and Sukuna serving as their successors didn't convince you yet, I believe that this possibly can. First, I want to mention that this was pointed out by users on Twitter, and I'll link the post below. But as we see throughout the series, there are many black boxes that contain either the character's thoughts or curses. But these text boxes have consistently been connected to the story and certain outcomes, such as Yuji serving to protect others, Sukuna's promise to kill Gojo, and another black box in that same chapter questioning if Gojo could truly defeat Sukuna, Maki destroying everything. And as of the latest chapter, we see that these black boxes come up when Sukuna reinforces his beliefs and his actions in the face of Yuji's indomitable will, and this serves as a contrast to Yuji's black boxes coming up whenever he needs to carry the wills of those who have cursed him by taking the best actions possible to protect humanity from curses. Kenjaku again serves to create a singular being that triumphs over all, and Sukuna, the king of curses himself, seems to occupy the spot currently judging from the previous text, and even has so much power over the ability of curses that he can metaphorically grasp these black boxes and use them to destroy anything in his way, using this power that seems to lie beyond cursed energy and continuing to be shrouded in mystery. Since Sukuna can do this and Kenjaku cannot, Sukuna is likely the inspiration for Kenjaku's pursuit of the merger, as again, Sukuna is using an ability that lies beyond curse energy. Yuji, on the other hand, seems to have retrieved many curses from those who continue to fall around him, in a way, being a twisted physical manifestation of the will of those who have been left behind. To conclude, I essentially believe that Kenjaku was bound to sacrifice himself in a way that mirrors Yuki, because these two characters both are the embodiments of sacrifice in their own ways, and the sacrifice is to give up something you have now for the sake of the future. Kenjaku also seems to mock Yuki's perspective and despise it, despite how similar they both are. So Kenjaku being defeated in a similar manner to Yuki was a good use of irony. Lastly, as I said earlier, they represent sacrifice, and although my monkey brain wanted to see them more in badass fights, since they're pretty entertaining characters, I think them being too proactive in achieving their own goals in the current events would just diminish what they stand for. They both live for something beyond themselves and to define the future of humanity, so they should allow the future of humanity to define itself. They've already done way more than one person should in the present, so whatever conclusion humanity comes to will decide which one of them were correct in the end. Also, with all the religious zealotry behind Kenjaku's actions, it just makes sense to me. However, I do wish he sacrificed himself by breaking the binding vow rather than just getting eliminated. With that said, that's my thoughts on Kenjaku's passing and how I just think that it was bound to happen. But that doesn't mean you have to like it. Stories are art, and the author is free to express his art in whatever way he feels. And you are free to like it or not in whatever way you feel. So don't feel inclined to feel like you have to like the ending, even if you think I make sense. With that said, if you guys liked the video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, as it'll let me know to do more of these. And have a great day, guys. Peace out.